Today we're talking about House Bill 1809, the legislation that is making waves here in my home state of Pennsylvania. The Universal Motorcycle Helmet Safety Act. In a nutshell, it wants to require you to wear a helmet every time you ride. Now this bill was introduced on August 19th, 2025 by Congressman Manuel Guzman. It's important to state that Manuel is not part of the riding community. He does not ride motorcycles, so therefore I think some of his opinion and his passion for this bill comes directly from statistics. Being introduced on August 19th, it was also immediately referred to the Transportation Committee. So we don't really know how long it's going to take for them to debate or ultimately what they're going to decide. And even if they enact this bill making the helmets mandatory, we have no idea as to the timeline of when any of this is going to take place or go into effect. But since we can't predict the future, let's roll it back to the past. I'm going to give you a little history on helmet laws here in Pennsylvania. You see, back in 1968, a universal helmet law was mandated, requiring everyone on two wheels to wear a helmet. But in 2003, that legislation was changed, giving the choice back to the rider. One of the main lobbyist groups that helped this 2003 legislation come to fruition was ABATE, the American Bikers Aim Towards Education. You see, they believe it is the rider's choice as to whether or not they need to wear a helmet. And they have released their opinion on social media about House Bill 1809. I'm going to put it up here on the screen for you guys. And although there are parts of this I can agree with, there are also parts that I tend to disagree with. So first, let's look at this from the perspective of Manuel Guzman, the congressman who introduced the bill. Since he's a non-motorcyclist, I'm sure all he's looking at is statistics. So it's important to understand what those are. And if you put a helmet on your head and then climb onto a motorcycle, statistics show that you do get a fatality percentage reduction. For riders, it's 37% of a fatality reduction. For passengers, it's 41% fatality reduction if you wore a helmet. Now, those are some pretty big numbers, but when you take into consideration that in Pennsylvania, 34% of fatal motorcycle accidents, the rider was intoxicated, you see, there's a simple choice we can make to give us the same benefits a helmet would. Another interesting statistic is that wearing a helmet has shown to have a 69% head injury reduction. So that's great. If we get into a small accident, minor accident, or we're bumping our head around, we can improve our chances of sustaining a head injury by 69%. That's significant. However, it's statistics like this and numbers that I believe drive this huge misconception when it comes to helmets. Let me explain that for you. If the goal is to help save lives like Mr. Guzman would like to do, then the helmet isn't necessarily the answer. And that's because at the end of the day, the helmet, it's just a piece of plastic and styrofoam. It's not some sort of magical thing we could put on our head and guarantee it's going to save our life. More often than not, I see people treating helmets as a courage boost, when that's not what they're there to do. The helmet shouldn't make you feel more secure when you jump on your motorcycle. Your skills and your knowledge base, improving those is what should help you feel more secure when you ride. If you are solely relying on a piece of plastic and styrofoam, you're doing it all wrong. Now, another statistic I found when doing this research made me feel a little happy. And that's regardless of whether we have mandated helmet laws or not, the latest studies in 2023 have shown that 73.8% of riders were wearing helmets regardless of what the law told them they did or didn't have to do. That 73.8% is the highest it's ever been in history, which to me, especially in the state of Pennsylvania, shows that riders are putting helmets on, hopefully, for the right reasons. You see, if you give people a choice to make, they're more likely to do the research and get the training to make a more informed and better decision for themselves. But if you mandate them to do something, they're more likely to rebel and not do it anyway. Now, I'm not here to give a psychology lecture, and that's not what this is about, but it can start to open up some really great discussions I want you guys to have in the comments down below. You see, I want to make this an open community a motorcycle community discussion as to whether or not there are significant pros or cons when it comes to mandating people to wear helmets. Now, all these statistics that I'm tossing at you and that have very likely been tossed at Senator Guzman come from national agencies, the real people who do the real research. Places like the Insurance Institution of Highway Safety, or the IIHS, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or the NHTSA. These are real numbers with the most recent data. So these are the things that Mr. Guzman's looking at. But he's not looking at all the other aspects. The aspects you see when you actually ride, when you live the lifestyle of two wheels. You see, in reality, statistics are just numbers. If you actually live in the culture, like I have my entire life, you grow up around motorcycles, you go to trainings, you ride in all sorts of different environments. I've ridden on the track, in the dirt, on the street, across the country, you name it. I have thrusted myself into many different areas of the motorcycling world. And one of those big aspects when it comes to two wheels is the culture. You see, the motorcycle culture ties directly into some American values. And that's kind of the culture of live and let live. The beautiful thing about being on two wheels is we all pretty much share that same perspective. And that everybody has their own individual right to not only express themselves in the way they like to, but to make the decisions they want to ride their own ride. You see, as motorcyclists, even riding together, we ride our own rides in that moment. We are experiencing our own emotions and choosing our own paths of travel as we head down the highway of life. So there are a lot of motorcyclists who tend to disagree that the government should be able to make that decision for them. And in the free-spirited world of motorcycle culture, a helmet can be a trap to some individuals. Some people believe it separates them from the consequences and the freedom of the open road. And you know what? That's a decision that is up to those guys. See, there's even a tremendous amount of debate amongst people who do ride as to whether or not there are benefits from wearing your helmet and what those benefits actually are. For me, my helmet's going to make me more comfortable when I ride and hopefully reduce the amount of times I get into an accident. That's the real goal for me, but it might not be the real goal for you. And it's definitely not the real goal for those who don't ride, like Mr. Guzman. Let me give you an example of a conversation that I've recently had with someone who doesn't ride motorcycles. Now, if you ride, you've probably had a conversation similar to this. You're talking to somebody and you're like, oh, the benefits of doing this, it's so incredible, the places you'll go, you get to see the feeling, the concentration, it's beautiful, it's relaxing. And they turn to you and say, yeah, but you're going to die. How many of you guys have had that conversation with someone who doesn't ride? These people turn around and think that you're holding a gun to your head, but that's really not true. You see, another thing I looked up when I was doing all this research was a couple numbers for myself, and I'm going to share them with you. See, back in 2023, the latest studies that we have available, there were 8.8 million registered motorcyclists in the United States of America. That's a big number, right? Well, out of those 8.8 million, 6,335 of them died. Put that into a percentage for yourself. It's 0.07% of registered motorcyclists were killed in a fatal motorcycle accident in 2023. So for those of you who think we're just going to die at any moment, that's not true. There's a very small percentage of us who actually die every year, less than 1%. And if you want to know something even more interesting, and I'm talking to you, Mr. Guzman, out of those 6,335 fatalities in 2023, 49% of those riders were wearing helmets. So you see, when it comes right down to it, even Mother Nature has determined she's a 50-50 split as to whether or not the helmet is really going to save your life. So I want to know what you guys think, because this is a great discussion that could be had. And while all the people who don't ride motorcycles are having that discussion down there in Harrisburg, we, the individuals who do ride, should be having the discussion right here in the comment section down below. Thanks for joining me here on Fun on Wheels. Next time, I promise we're going to ride. If you haven't seen any of those videos, consider watching, consider subscribing. I live the lifestyle of two wheels. And at the end of the day, I want all of you to remember, we don't need to make it this complicated. Just get out there and just ride.